こんにちは、ハリケーンフットボールです。今回の教材はリバプールの遠藤航に関する動画です。リバプールはプレミアリーグの第20節でマンチェスターユナイテッドと伝統の一戦を戦い、2対2の引き分けに終わりました。2対1とリードしている状況で、遠藤航を出すべきだったというのは、試合後に現地でも多くの声があったようです。今回の動画でもそのような話を出し、結果論では遠藤航を出すべきだったけど、一方で、あの流れではもう1点取りに行く流れだったとも話しています。今週の2試合に関しても、遠藤航を含めたローテーションが大幅に期待される試合であり、どのようなローテーションになるかも議論していますので、早速動画をチェックしてみましょう。
This is what yeah, I think that's right. There's a thing there where I think Gravenberch's a relatively solid performer, but he pulls to the right. He's not great. It's not as good as he was last week against West Ham or as good as he was against Tottenham. So you got that one in there. As I say, there's no one coming and covering Salah. All game, no one does. Salah's running for him, which is what's been happening all season. It's there in the numbers. It's there when you watch it. Salah's pressures in comparison to every other attacker who plays for Liverpool are minuscule. Every other attacker works harder than Salah, and we're all fine with it. This is not a criticism. It's like this is part of why, and part of how Salah's having the season that he's having, but someone else is therefore got to go and fill in that space. And as I say, at times this season it's been Nunez, at times it's been Jota, and a lot of the time it's been Szoboszlai.
And Konate.
Yeah. And Konate's strong enough normally, but as you say, he's knackered with 10 to go. First game back.
I mean, is it the Martinez goal? I mean, Konate just stands off him. You know, it's not. It was a bit of, this is where, I'm not a point at the manager, but this is one where he took a calculated risk. He'd obviously seen Konate impress in training, and he put him into a game, I think, which was higher octane than perhaps he expected.
Yeah, I do agree.
It was too much for Konate, that game. Everything that, you know, he dealt with it in most situations aerially very, very well.
I think he's good 10 to 70. I think he creeps into the game and then he's good, and then there's a period where I think, you know, if the manager had a move that he felt comfortable in, but he's thinking, he's probably looking at, you know, he's looking at the bench and thinking like it's young players, it's the weather is just a massive thing, you know, in the game. You're throwing someone into that, you know, Quansah, who's maybe not as confident as he was, you know, 6 months ago, and you're like, right, 20 minutes to go, all the best. The crowd's fucking all dreadful.
But that wasn't front foot Konate, was it? He was, you know,
no,
he was on his heels,
he
on his
toes. He probably wished he would have done it now, but I can sort of understand why he doesn't.
Oh yeah.
So to your point about the doing other people's running, and this is something else that I've seen a lot of people say as well, is that maybe this was the game to bring in Endo. Maybe taking Grav off, maybe in a moment after we've taken the lead, where we've still got 15 minutes to defend, get fresh legs on, someone who's going to do that extra bit of running. He's of the profile of the we had on the bench, he's kind of the most like that. But I also kind of understand why he doesn't do it, because
well, he said the midfield's non-existent by that point. He starts after the game.
But I was calling for the opposite at half time. I was calling for. I wanted four forwards on. I thought Jota would do more than a midfielder, and he actually did.
So you can do, in my mind, though, you can have both of those things.
Yeah.
So you can have Jota on to do what Jones wasn't quite doing, and I felt like Jota did occupy the defence a lot more, because that's the key with the whole Diaz being the forward thing. Because when Diaz does want to go out wide, yes, Gakpo goes in the central areas, but he's just there. If you watch it, he very rarely actually touches the ball in central areas.
Yep.
He's just there to kind of occupy defenders. It requires the attacking midfielder to come in there.
To someone break the line.
To break the line and to be that guy. And if you've got an actual forward doing that, then it makes a massive difference. But I think you can have both of those things together, and it kind of complements the attack but also fortifies the defence. But like I say, the moment after we go in the lead, that's where Manchester United are at their worst for the whole 90 minutes. They're angry.
Agree.
They look like they've lost their heads. They've lost their focus. And so you're like, okay, well, this is the time to go and score the third, kill the game.
3-1 looked much more likely than 2-2. As bad as we played, 3-1 looked much more likely.
So I understand why he doesn't say, I'm going to make a defensive change here. But as it turned out, with hindsight, it looks like maybe that could have been helpful.
The worst thing about the equaliser, John, is I feel like I've spent a lifetime watching that United score that goal at the Anfield Wrap.
It keeps in.
I've seen like a genuinely, it's happening before the whole move was developing before my eyes. I was just thinking, I was fucking seeing this film.
I've seen everyone score that goal at the Anfield.
I know, but there's something specific about United with it as well. You know what I mean? And genuinely, it was a good reminder of to the point earlier.
But
but also just being up for the idea.
fuck? Honestly, why are they still singing about Diego Forlan? Of all the things, like, no one gives a fuck about Diego Forlan scoring when we weren't very good. Honestly, God. They should just sing 20 times Man United for 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's what they should sing every time we play them.
Yeah, but instead, fuck it now.
I want to do the big picture in a minute, Rob, but let's start because we moved there with the idea of what he should and what we expect him to do against Tottenham. I've, in my head, got the idea that I think the Kelleher start. Stop me whenever you want, Roberto. Kelleher starts. Trent.
Nailed on.
Van Dijk and Shimicast start.
Yes, with Quansah alongside.
Do you think Quansah?
I think so. Or it could be a Konate 60-minute, 45. No, I think Quansah. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes, I do know.
I would start Quansah, but I would want Konate to get more minutes under his belt because I don't think I'm going to give him any against Accrington. So I would say maybe a 60.
Wouldn't you?
No, I just think that 65, 35. So 35 for 65 for Quansah, 35 for Konate against Spurs, and then give Quansah. Or maybe give Konate 10 minutes against Accrington, but give Quansah the majority of that game, and then have Konate back for Forest.
Yeah, he could play Quansah in both, couldn't he? And just play Konate in one and Virgil in the other, and then just sort of see how that goes. And you know, you're almost given that, you know, thinking what's better for Konate. Is he better having a week off now and then starting Accrington, having the quick turnaround, or do you throw him in again from Wednesday? I think either way, you probably only get 70, and you sort of look at the, you know, can you drop back an Endo or sort of whatever? But that sort of feels quite a nice little arrangement for me, and it gets Quansah 2 games as well, and gets him, because I think us all having a little bit more reassurance on Quansah's level, and it will be a sort of a positive thing, not least for the manager, I think. And so at least we feel like, well, if there is a situation where we need, you know, both him and, you know, everyone else, you know, feel a little bit sort of, you know, more sure about it. And so I think playing him in both and making sure that both, you know, especially Konate, but probably end up being Virgil as well, get a start each, you know, will be no bad thing, I don't think.
Midfield, John, I've written down Curtis Jones, Alexis McAllister and Harvey Elliott.
Yeah, I'd like to see Elliott. You've taught me into that. I think Elliott's ended up being a bit unfortunate, I think, because last year for Jurgen, when he needed an attacking sub, he put Elliott on. And this year, the manager looks like he'd rather go with 4 forwards, the Gutman approach, they call it. And so he looks to me like...
He's gone full Gutman.
Yeah. So even when Elliott...
Got a kebab.
Poor Luke Littler over there. Yeah, so he was the manager. Even when he was starting, he was the manager's attacking sub. Whereas now he's the new manager was, you know, is preferred in, you know, a sort of a different way, and so he's not even getting sort of a lot of minutes off the bench. But I think if Szoboszlai is still not right, and let's assume that he isn't, if he's sort of not well enough to feature at all on
Sunday, Wednesday, I'm saying he's still on Lemsip.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think?
He's better.
Good immune systems, these lads, you know. It's only one day in bed.
I'd leave it till Saturday, and so I would go. I would play. I'll use the opportunity to play Elliott.
I think it's more that. I think
that attacking midfield role, and then McAllister and either Jones or Gravenberch, because I'm not having Gravenberch anywhere near Accrington, so I wouldn't mind him starting this one.
I wonder. I mean, I'm like Rob. I think Szoboszlai might be back.
I do,
and I wonder whether or not Spurs is a decent opportunity to try him in the 2. And to say to Mac, look, you've played fantastic the last 2 games. Have a rest. Get 20 minutes at the end. Don't play with Accrington. Go for Forest.
So go Jones or go Gravenberch and Szoboszlai.
Gravenberch and Szoboszlai with Elliott ahead of them.
I think he needs to have a look at what he does when he can't play Gravenberch. That's what I think. Well, so I think he needs to have a look at what he does when he. So that's why I'd look at Jones in the 6.
I think we're going to win that game or not lose.
I think he needs to look at. I think he wants to look at what that is to play Curtis Jones in the holding role. He does it against Newcastle for half an hour. Does it really well against Newcastle for half an hour. It looks to me like he is the cab off the rank. So that's why I want to see Jones there, because I think that if later in the season there's a bit of a niggle, you need to rest Gravenberch, you've got league games, Champions League games, we hope, pressure on everything, we hope, then I think that's where I think I'd like to know what Curtis looks like in that role.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, obviously there's still Endo, but it's still a very different way of doing that thing. So whether or not he thinks that that's something that we can ever do in a quote unquote big game from the start, that's the thing. Whether or not he's more of a finisher. Like, to be honest, when we signed Endo, in my mind, he was doing the Milner role.
Yeah, lots of 15s, lots of 25s.
Yeah. Finishing, cleaning up, getting the odd yellow card, but just basically slowing the game down before we can win.
Captain into Liverpool against Accrington.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So you might be right. You might be that we need to look at a real, true Gravenberch alternative. And again, like, he probably wasn't at his best against United. I feel like, I mean, the Martinez goal, he runs off the back of him as well as Trent. So there is that as well. But yeah, there are options. And I think for the most part, we're in a situation where we're going to be gaining because we are going to be in a situation where we can really play nearly everyone. I mean, Joe Gomez is currently, if we're saying the Zobs, that's fine. Joe Gomez is currently the only one who's unavailable. So we have got some good options and we can start to kind of fiddle around with things a little bit, I think.
I think we're ignoring one thing here, though, how he views that Tottenham game in terms of our season, in terms of its effect on the psychology of the squad and the club. I don't think, especially after what feels like a defeat against Man United, he wants to wake up beaten 4-2 at Spurs because he put out a half-arsed team on Thursday.
I don't think it's half-arsed to use Curtis Jones to the whole thing.
No, but I think if we're talking people like Endo, I'm
not talking Endo. I'm
all right. Let's put it this way: Spurs on their day can score goals against you, right?
They did against us.
They did against us. I think he will think my first priority is to win that football match. Not in a life and death way, I'll accept that, but I think his first priority is to win that football match, and that's why I think he will play Gravenberch and build out from there. I don't think he'll go, I want to have a look at Curtis Jones. I don't think he'll allow that thinking in at this particular. I think against Accrington you can, or if it would be in the early stages of the League Cup, but I think at this stage and this point of the season against that opposition, I think he will put the blinkers on and go, how am I going to win this match?
Okay, I agree with you and disagree with you and him, if you see what I mean, in equal measure. In that I don't think that this is that important a game, but I think that it is obviously impacted by what's happened against Manchester United. That said, I think his front three will be Salah, Jota and Diaz.
That sounds about right to me, yeah. I think so.
I think that...
Surely the temptation to pick the three who scored 6 there last week.
Yeah. And again, I think that since we played them, Spurs have actually got weaker defensive. They had even more defensive injuries. So you could say that whether or not you don't want to be giving them any kind of encouragement by playing quote-unquote weaker team, I think if we've still played a very, very strong attack, I think that will kind of mitigate anything like that. So I think as well that we have to kind of get our head around the idea that just because we're making changes doesn't mean to say we're putting out a weak team.
No.
We've got a good squad and we need to be able to keep everybody involved. So I don't think that if Gravenberch doesn't play, for example, it's because we're underestimating Spurs. I think it's because he thinks, well, Curtis Jones can do this job and I need to see it. That doesn't mean to say Gravenberch won't be on the bench in case he's wrong.
次は解説です。リバプールのスカウス英語が相変わらず難しいですね。一部聞き取れていないところもありますし、背景がわからないと意味がわからない部分もあります。ケバブに関しては、庶民的で現実的なものの象徴として、現実主義を表すニュアンスとして使われていますし、誕生日にはケバブが欲しいという表現などもあったりします。今回はそういう英語らしい便利な表現もありましたので、本日の解説をチェックしてみましょう。ミニスキュールは非常に小さいものやごくわずかな量を表す形容詞です。この言葉はラテン語に由来し、現代英語では物のサイズや量、影響力の小ささを指して広く使われます。特に何かが無視できるほど小さいことを強調する際に適した言葉です。
Minuscule.
I mean, Konate just stands off him.
スタンドオフは英語で状況や態度を表現する際に使われるフレーズです。動詞としては物理的または感情的に距離を置くや控えるという意味を持ちます。一方、名詞では膠着状態や睨み合いを指し、特に二者間の対立が解決されず、どちらも引かない状況を表現します。ここでは離れて立っている、つまり見ていただけだという意味で使われています。
I mean, Konate just stands off him. I think which was higher octane than perhaps he expected.
Yeah.
オクタンは、もともとはガソリンの燃料性能を表す化学用語で、高オクタン燃料ほど効率的に燃焼します。比喩的にはハイオクタンというような使い方で、非常に活気がある、刺激的、またはエネルギッシュな状況を指し、力強く活気に満ちたものを表現します。
I think which was higher octane than perhaps he expected.
Yeah.
I think which was higher octane than perhaps he expected.
Yeah.
I think he creeps into the game and then he's good and then
クリープイントは何かがそっと入り込む、または気づかれないうちに徐々に浸透することを意味する表現で、感情や考え、不安といった抽象的なものが心に忍び寄る状況や、エラーや問題がシステムや生活に徐々に現れる様子を描写する際によく使われます。その控えめで静かなニュアンスからドラマチックな状況を描くのに適した表現です。
I think he creeps into the game and then he's good and then I think he creeps into the game and then he's good and then
But also fortifies the defense.
fortify は何かを強化したり補強したりすることを意味する動詞で、もともとは城や壁のような物理的な防御を強固にすることを指していましたが、現在では精神力やチームの結束、食品の栄養価を高める場合にも使われます。物理的なものから抽象的なものまで、あらゆる場面で活用できる表現です。
But also fortifies the defense. But also fortifies the defense.
Great.
They look like they lost their heads. They've lost their focus.
lose one's head は冷静さを失ったり感情的になることを意味し、特にストレスや緊張が高まる状況で理性的な判断ができなくなる様子を表す際に使われます。このフレーズは感情が行動に影響を及ぼす場面を描写するのに適した表現です。
Great.
They look like they lost their heads. They've lost their focus.
Great.
They look like they lost their heads. They've lost their focus.
Yeah, Sunday, Wednesday, I'm saying he's still on Lemsip.
レムスイップはイギリスで一般的な風邪薬のブランドです。粉末をお湯に溶かして飲むタイプが一般的で、レモン風味のホットドリンクとして販売されています。オンレムスイップとは薬を飲んでいる状態を表すカジュアルな表現で、軽い風邪や体調不良の際に薬で何とかしているというニュアンスを含み、日常的な体調の話題でよく使われる表現です。
Yeah, Sunday, Wednesday, I'm saying he's still on Lemsip. Yeah, Sunday, Wednesday, I'm saying he's still on Lemsip. And there's a bit of a niggle.
ニグルは些細な悩み、軽い違和感、小さな問題を指す表現で、名詞としては気になって仕方がない些細な懸念や不安、または軽い身体的な痛みを表します。動詞として使う場合は、何かが気になって頭から離れないや、軽い痛みが続くといったニュアンスを含みます。スポーツの場面では、選手が抱える軽い怪我や違和感を指すことが多く、深刻ではないが無視できない小さな問題や不快感を描写する際に非常に便利な表現です。
There's a bit of a niggle.
And we can start to kind of fiddle around with things a little bit, I think.
フィドルアラウンドは何かを特に目的もなくいじったり、時間を無駄に過ごしたりすることを指すカジュアルな表現で、物理的なものをいじる場合や、あれこれ試行錯誤する状況に使われます。また、非効率的に時間を過ごしているニュアンスもあり、時には気楽に何かを試している、探っているようなポジティブなニュアンスでも使われ、軽い行動や努力を描写する際に非常に便利な日常的な言葉です。
We can start to kind of fiddle around with things a little bit, I think. And we can start to kind of fiddle around with things a little bit, I think.
That's because he put out a half-assed team on Thursday.
ハーフアースドは直訳すると判決というような意味になりそうですが、中途半端な、いい加減な、やる気がないという意味を持つスラング的な表現で、何かが十分な努力や注意を払われておらず、不完全であることを批判する際に使われます。日常会話やカジュアルな場面では非常に一般的ですが、アースという少しそやな語彙を含むため、フォーマルな場では避けるのが適切です。特に人の努力や態度、計画が不十分であることを鋭く批判したいときに、強いインパクトを持って使われる表現です。
It's because he put out a half-assed team on Thursday. It's because he put out a half-assed team on Thursday. Not in a life and death way.
ライフ&です。は、文字通り生死を意味する表現で命に関わるような非常に深刻な状況を指します。また、比喩的にも使われ非常に重要な緊急性が高いという意味で使われます。命の危機や重要な決断の緊迫感を表現する際に用いられる力強いフレーズです。
Not Not in a life and death way. Not in a life and death way. I think he will put the blinkers on.
ブリンカは特にイギリスでは一般的に馬の視界を遮る遮眼角を指し、この装置は馬が周囲に気を取られず前方だけを見て進めるようにするものです。さらに、比喩的には視野が狭いという批判的なニュアンスでも使われるなど、多様な文脈で活用される表現です。アメリカ英語でも馬用の遮眼角を意味しますが、主に競馬や馬術の文脈に限られ、比喩的な使われ方はされませんし、アメリカ英語でのブリンカは車の方向指示器を意味することが圧倒的に多いぜ。
I think he will put the blinkers on. I think he will put the blinkers on.
いかがでしたか？マンチェスターユナイテッド戦では、結果論で言えば遠藤航を出すべきだったというのが一般的な見方のようですが、1点を守るよりも、もう1点を狙いに行った積極的な考えだったのでしょう。結果的にはあの場面で遠藤を出さなければいつ出すのか、といったところでしたが、今週は遠藤が出場するのが期待できる試合が続きますので、とても楽しみにしています。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございました。またすぐにお会いしましょう。